Picture this: you're standing in the middle of a sea of golden sand, where the only sounds are the whispers of the wind and the shifting dunes stretching endlessly in every direction. It feels like the most lifeless place on Earth. But what if I told you that beneath your feet, buried under centuries of dust and time, lies the ghost of a world that once pulsed with life? A place where rivers carved through fertile valleys, where trees reached for the sky, and where entire civilizations thrived in what we now call the desert that used to breathe. This isn't just a story about sand and silence, it's about the secrets hidden in plain sight. For generations, the desert has guarded its mysteries, but today, we're peeling back those layers. Satellite images reveal the faint outlines of ancient riverbeds, like veins beneath the skin of the earth. Archaeologists brush away grains of sand to uncover pottery, tools, and even the remnants of homes, proof that people once laughed, traded, and dreamed here. How did a land so full of life wither into this vast emptiness? And what can its forgotten whispers teach us about survival, resilience, and the fragile balance between humanity and nature? This is more than just a journey into the past. It's a detective story written in dust and stone. We'll follow the clues left behind, the sophisticated irrigation systems that once defied the arid climate, the trade routes that vanished beneath the dunes, and the legends passed down through generations that hint at a world lost to time. From cutting-edge technology like LiDAR scanning to the painstaking work of archaeologists on their hands and knees in the blazing sun, we're piecing together a puzzle that changes everything we thought we knew about deserts. So come with me, let's step into the footprints of those who walked here centuries ago and uncover the echoes of a green world that refuses to be forgotten. The desert you see today wasn't always a barren expanse of sand. It was once alive, a thriving ecosystem that slowly vanished under nature's relentless forces. To understand how this transformation happened, we need to look at the desert not as a wasteland, but as a living, breathing entity. Wind is one of the most powerful sculptors of these landscapes. Over centuries, gusts carried tiny grains of sand, piling them into towering dunes while scouring away the remnants of what once grew here. But wind alone didn't create this emptiness. Long-term shifts in climate played a starring role. Thousands of years ago, rainfall patterns changed, and what was once a network of rivers and lakes gradually dried up. The land, starved of water, could no longer sustain the lush forests and grasslands that once covered it. Beneath the surface, tectonic activity quietly reshaped the region. Earth's crust shifted, altering river courses and closing off ancient water sources. Some lakes disappeared entirely, swallowed by the very ground they once nourished. These geological changes didn't happen overnight. They unfolded over millennia like a slow-motion collapse. But today, we have tools to peel back those layers of time. LiDAR technology, which uses lasers to map the ground beneath vegetation or sand, has revealed the skeletons of forgotten river systems and the foundations of settlements long buried. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses into the earth, bouncing back signals that paint a picture of hidden structures and lost waterways. What's astonishing is how these technologies uncover stories invisible to the naked eye. In one region, radar images showed the outline of an ancient village, its walls and streets perfectly preserved under meters of sand. Elsewhere, LiDAR detected the faint traces of agricultural terraces, proof that people once farmed here, coaxing life from soil that's now bone dry. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, revealing how a green world became a desert. But the desert isn't finished changing. even now, dunes creep forward, swallowing landmarks and exposing others. Some areas that were covered just decades ago are now bare, revealing artifacts hidden for generations. It's a reminder that the desert is still breathing, still shifting, and still guarding its secrets. The next time you see a vast, empty landscape, remember, what's buried beneath might tell a story far richer than the silence above. Who were the people who called this vanished oasis home? The desert guards their names, but the remnants they left behind speak volumes. Scattered across the dunes, archaeologists have uncovered not just isolated artifacts, but entire networks of settlements, proof that this was no temporary refuge, but a flourishing hub of civilization. What makes these discoveries extraordinary isn't just their age, but the sophistication they reveal. Take the irrigation systems, for example. In a landscape where water was precious, these ancient engineers carved intricate channels to divert every drop. Some trenches stretch for kilometers, following the natural slope of the land with precision that rivals modern hydrology. They weren't just surviving, they were mastering their environment. Pottery fragments tell another part of the story. Unlike the rough, utilitarian vessels found in nomadic camps, these shards show careful craftsmanship decorated with intricate patterns, glazed to seal out the desert air. Some bear traces of grains, oils, or spices, hinting at a diet richer than the barren land today could ever support. But perhaps the most telling discoveries are the wells. Dug deep into the earth, their walls reinforced with stacked stone or baked clay, these weren't just holes in the ground. They were lifelines maintained across generations. One site revealed a well with staircases spiraling down its sides, as if the water table had slowly retreated over years, forcing people to chase it deeper. How did these communities vanish? The answer lies in layers. In some places, archaeologists find homes abandoned in haste, meals left half-eaten, tools dropped where they were last used. Elsewhere, the evidence points to slower decline, wells filled deliberately as if in ritual, buildings repurposed as storage, then as animal pens, then left to crumble. Climate shifts likely played a role, but so did human choices. As water grew scarcer, trade routes may have shifted, cutting off vital supplies. Conflicts over dwindling resources could have fractured societies. Yet, even in collapse, their ingenuity endures. Modern drought-resistant farming techniques in the region now echo their ancient methods, proving that knowledge, like water, can resurface when least expected. The true legacy of these people isn't just in what they built, but in how they adapted. They read the land like a map, turning challenges into opportunities. When the rains faltered, they harvested fog. When the soil grew thirsty, they mulched it with crushed shells to retain moisture. Their story isn't one of defeat, but of resilience, a reminder that even in the harshest landscapes, life finds a way. And somewhere beneath the shifting sands, their voices still whisper, waiting for us to listen. From hundreds of kilometers above Earth, satellites capture what human eyes can't, hidden contours of a lost world etched beneath the desert's surface. These orbital observers don't just take pictures, they peer through layers of sand using wavelengths beyond visible light. Infrared sensors detect subtle temperature differences where ancient riverbeds once flowed, their moisture still lingering just beneath the surface. Multispectral imaging breaks sunlight into dozens of color bands, unveiling mineral traces left by vanished lakes or the faint stains of decomposed vegetation. What looks like barren wasteland to astronauts transforms into a digital parchment of forgotten geography. One striking discovery came from the European Space Agency's satellite data, revealing a sprawling network of paleochannels, ghostly river systems that once fed the region. These ancient waterways branch like veins across the desert, some wider than the Nile, now visible only as slight depressions in the terrain. In Saudi Arabia's Nefer Desert, satellite-guided archaeologists pinpointed the location of a lost city mentioned in early Islamic texts. From orbit, the ruins appeared as a geometric shadow beneath the sand, confirmed by later ground surveys to be an 8th century trading hub. The technology's precision keeps improving. Modern satellites can distinguish between types of buried structures, differentiating a natural rock formation from a collapsed wall based on how materials reflect radar pulses. In Egypt's western desert, this capability exposed the outline of a Roman-era fort, its rectangular perimeter invisible to explorers for centuries. Even more remarkably, thermal imaging at night detects how sand cools differently over stone foundations versus loose soil, exposing entire street grids of settlements swallowed by dunes. But perhaps the most humbling revelation comes from synthetic aperture radar, which penetrates meters below the surface. In Namibia's Namib Desert, this technology mapped the course of a river that dried up over 100,000 years ago, its bed now lying beneath 60 feet of sand. These findings aren't just academic curiosities, they're rewriting migration theories. A recently discovered subterranean river in the Sahara suggests early humans may have followed hidden water corridors across what we assumed was impassable desert. The implications stretch beyond archaeology. Satellite data helps climatologists model how deserts expand, informing modern drought responses. In Oman, spectral analysis identified underground fractures where water pools knowledge now used to drill sustainable wells for nomadic tribes. As these spaceborne tools grow more advanced, each scan peels back another layer of the desert story, proving that even the emptiest landscapes are crowded with secrets waiting for the right light to reveal them. Long before humans debated climate change, the Earth was already writing its own story of transformation in layers of ice and stone. Ice cores drilled from glaciers near the desert tell a silent tale of shifting rainfall. Tiny air bubbles trapped for millennia reveal how atmospheric moisture dwindled over centuries like a slow exhale. In Antarctica and Greenland, similar cores show global patterns, but here the evidence hits closer to home. Pollen grains preserved in sediment layers paint a vivid before and after. Oak and pistachio giving way to drought-resistant shrubs, then finally to dust. Fossilized bones add another layer to the puzzle. Hippopotamus remains found in what's now the heart of the Sahara suggest rivers deep enough to support large mammals. Zebra teeth uncovered in Arabia's deserts show chemical signatures of lush grazing lands. These weren't isolated oases. They were part of interconnected ecosystems that collapsed like dominoes. Sediment cores from dried lake beds act as timelines. Thick layers of organic rich mud abruptly transition to barren sand, marking the moment life left the water. In one striking sample from Chad's Gozkirki, a single centimeter of sediment represents 500 years of drying, like an hourglass running out. What caused this unspooling of green? Orbital cycles played a leading role. Earth's wobbling axis altered monsoons, pushing rain belts away from the region around 5,000 years ago. But nature didn't act alone. Charcoal fragments in soil layers hint at human influence. Early farmers may have accelerated the change by clearing vegetation. Goat and sheep bones appear in archaeological layers just as grasslands vanish, suggesting overgrazing tipped fragile ecosystems past recovery. The terrifying beauty of this story lies in its echoes today. Modern satellite images show Lake Chad shrinking by 90% since the 1960s, mirroring ancient patterns. Dust storms from the Gobi Desert now carry enough particles to alter weather in California. This isn't just about the past, it's a living laboratory demonstrating how small shifts compound into seismic change. The desert whispers a warning written in sediment and bone. Climates don't collapse overnight, but once they cross thresholds, the transformation becomes its own unstoppable force. For generations, Bedouin storytellers have passed down tales of Iram, of the pillars, a city so wealthy and proud that it vanished beneath the sands as divine punishment. Mentioned in the Quran and woven into pre-Islamic poetry, this legendary metropolis was long dismissed as fantasy until satellite imagery revealed a vast, rectangular formation in Oman's empty quarter matching ancient descriptions. Nearby, Tuareg nomads speak of Timbuktu's sister city, Tadmeka, where gold was so plentiful it paved streets. Archaeologists found its ruins in Mali, complete with crucibles for refining gold dust, proving oral histories preserved memories of real places. Not all myths point to grandeur, some whisper of disasters. In Mauritania, locals describe a rain of fire that drove their ancestors from lush grasslands. Geologists later uncovered a layer of glassy debris, evidence of a meteorite impact around 5,000 years ago that may have accelerated desertification. Similarly, Berber folklore recounts a great thirst that forced migrations, coinciding with sediment records of a catastrophic drought. The stories vary, but their roots cling to real events like fossils in rock. Then there are the warnings. Desert tribes avoid certain dunes, claiming they're guarded by jinn or conceal cursed tombs. In one case, this superstition led archaeologists to an untouched burial site near Al-Ula, where inscriptions named a previously unknown king. Even the Greek historian Herodotus wrote of a Persian army swallowed by the Sahara while chasing the Nasamons tribe. In 2019, researchers found hundreds of bleached bones and bronze weapons in western Egypt's dunes, a mass grave dating to Herodotus's era. The most haunting tales involve water. A Tuareg proverb says, "The desert remembers rivers," and indeed, their navigation songs describe landmarks now buried. In Niger, singers still reference the Wadi of the ghost herds, guiding caravans along paths that mirror satellite-mapped paleochannels. When linguists analyzed these songs, they discovered terms for extinct plants and animals, a linguistic fossil record. What makes these stories extraordinary isn't just their accuracy, but their endurance. They're not static, they evolve like the dunes. A 19th century British explorer recorded a tale about a golden temple near Siwa oasis. Modern versions replace gold with shining metal, leading some to speculate about ancient solar mirrors or meteoritic iron. Whether coincidence or collective memory, these narratives form a bridge across time, reminding us that myth and history often walk hand in hand through the sands. Beneath the scorching sun and shifting sands, teams of archaeologists wage a quiet battle against time and the elements. Their worksites aren't air-conditioned labs, but exposed trenches where temperatures can soar past 50 degrees Celsius. Yet these modern-day explorers persist, armed with trowels, brushes, and cutting-edge technology, peeling back layers of history one grain at a time. Take the team working in Sudan's Bayuda Desert, where members start digging before dawn to avoid the midday heat. By sunrise, they're already uncovering artifacts, not with dramatic flourishes, but with the painstaking care of surgeons. A glint of metal turns out to be a 2,000-year-old spearhead, its edge still sharp enough to tell stories of hunting or warfare. Nearby, a team member brushes sand from a ceramic shard, revealing a fingerprint preserved in the clay, a fleeting touch from a potter who lived when this was green land. The challenges are as varied as the discoveries. In Morocco's Drought Valley, windstorms routinely erase excavation progress overnight, forcing archaeologists to document every find in real time with 3D scanners. At Saudi Arabia's Al-Faw site, researchers navigate treacherous soft sand that collapses trenches without warning, yet these hardships yield extraordinary rewards. One team in Jordan's Black Desert unearthed a Neolithic dwelling with its roof intact, a time capsule frozen 7,000 years ago. Inside, they found stone tools arranged as if the owner had just stepped out, alongside charred seeds that revealed the inhabitants' last meal. Technology has revolutionized the process, but human intuition remains irreplaceable. In Egypt's Dakar oasis, a veteran archaeologist noticed subtle color variations in the sand, leading to the discovery of a Roman-era bakery. Its ovens, still blackened by ancient fires, contained loaves fossilized by the desert's dry air. Meanwhile, in the UAE's Liwa oasis, ground-penetrating radar guided a team to a Bronze Age well, its interior walls lined with woven palm fibers, a testament to ingenious water conservation. Every excavation tells a dual story, one of the past being uncovered and another of the present's relentless dedication. Students from local universities often join these digs, learning to read the land's subtle clues. In Mauritania, Tuareg guides share ancestral knowledge of dune movements, helping pinpoint where ruins might emerge next. The work is slow, the conditions brutal, but the payoff transcends individual artifacts. When a Spanish-Moroccan team recently mapped an entire Iron Age village near Zagora, they didn't just find houses, they reconstructed a community. Clay loom weights spoke of textile workshops, while fish bones in the ruins hinted at trade with distant coasts. Perhaps the most poignant moments come when the personal emerges from the ancient. At a site in Oman, a child's leather sandal was found tucked against a doorway, as if waiting for its owner to return. In Israel's Negev desert, a broken comb still held strands of hair, traces of someone who lived and laughed here millennia ago. These aren't just relics, they're bridges across time, reminding us that the desert's silence is an illusion. Beneath its surface, countless voices wait to be heard. One of the most haunting sights in the desert isn't the endless sand, it's the ghostly imprint of what once was. Fossilized riverbeds snake across the landscape like scars, their dry channels cutting through dunes that now rise where water once flowed. These aren't just geological curiosities, they're crime scenes, and the victim is an entire ecosystem. To understand how this green world withered, we need to follow the water, or rather, the terrifying absence of it. Start with the rivers. Satellite images reveal networks of paleochannels, ancient waterways that once carried meltwater from distant mountains. Some were as mighty as the Nile, their beds now buried under meters of sand. But how does a river simply vanish? The answer lies in a cascade of changes. As rainfall patterns shifted over centuries, the mountain's snowpack dwindled, starving the rivers at their source. Then came the wind, piling dunes into natural dams that diverted remaining streams until they evaporated into the air. In Jordan's Wadi Rum, you can stand in a canyon carved by water and run your hands along smooth rock walls polished by millennia of flowing currents now silent and dry. Lakes faced a crueler fate. Core samples from places like Chad's Bidet-Lay Depression tell a story of slow suffocation. Layers of diatom fossils, tiny aquatic organisms, give way to gypsum crystals, proof the water grew saltier as it shrank. At the end comes a thick band of wind-blown dust, the final gasp of a lake that once supported hippos and crocodiles. Some lakes didn't just dry up, they were swallowed. In Egypt's Qattara Depression, groundwater dissolution caused the land to collapse, draining an entire basin like a bathtub with the plug pulled. But the most revealing clues come from the desert's fossil springs. In Oman's Dhofar region, mineral deposits form eerie, stair-step terraces around long dead water sources. These are travertine formations, built layer by layer as bubbling springs deposited calcium carbonate over centuries. Their intricate structures mirror Yellowstone's hot springs, except here, the water stopped flowing 4,000 years ago. By analyzing the layers, scientists can read the spring's death throes. Thinner bands mean less flow, sudden mineral shifts hint at contamination, and then nothing. The tragedy isn't just in the loss, but in the warning these remnants hold. Modern climate models show terrifying parallels. The same orbital cycles that dried the Sahara are subtly shifting again. Satellite data reveals current lakes like Lake Chad following the same contraction patterns as their ancient counterparts. Even more chilling, some desert aquifers being tapped today contain water that fell as rain 6,000 years ago, a finite resource we're draining faster than it can ever replenish. Yet there's hope in these ghosts. In Mauritania, nomads still use ancient techniques to find water, tapping into fog nets that mimic long-gone dew ponds. Archaeologists working with NASA have mapped subterranean fractures where runoff once pooled knowledge, now helping drill sustainable wells. The desert's past isn't just a graveyard, it's a playbook for survival, written in the language of vanished streams and the bones of springs that once breathed life into the sand. The desert that now stretches barren under the sun was once a living mosaic of green, a place where life flourished in ways that seem unimaginable today. Pollen grains trapped in ancient soil layers tell a story of dense forests where acacia and tamarisk trees towered overhead, their roots drinking from rivers long vanished. Fossilized leaves reveal species like the African false banana, a plant that once thrived in humid valleys, its broad leaves now reduced to fragile imprints in stone. But it wasn't just plants that shaped this forgotten oasis. Bones scattered across the dunes belong to creatures that seem out of place in a desert. Gazelles with teeth worn down from grazing on lush grasses, hippopotamus skulls half buried in sand where swamps once sprawled, even the occasional crocodile vertebrae, hinting at waterways deep enough to hide predators. The diversity is staggering. In one remarkable site in Sudan's Wadi Bakht, archaeologists uncovered a graveyard of giraffes, their long necks folded like broken reeds in the sediment. These weren't the stunted, drought-resistant animals we associate with deserts today, but robust giants that browsed on treetops in a landscape teeming with life. Nearby, fossilized dung beetles rolled balls of organic matter far larger than any modern desert species could manage, evidence of an environment rich enough to support decomposers at the base of the food chain. Even the smallest clues paint a vivid picture. Fossilized termite mounds stand like miniature skyscrapers, their intricate tunnels designed to regulate humidity in an era when the air held moisture. But how did this Eden collapse? The answer lies in adaptation, or the lack of it. Some species, like the Nubian ibex, evolved smaller bodies and more efficient kidneys to survive on scarce water. Others, like the now extinct North African elephant, simply vanished when their habitats shrank beyond recovery. Pollen records show a grim progression. First, the moisture-loving trees disappeared, then the drought-resistant shrubs, until only the hardiest grasses remained. In their place came new survivors: sand vipers that learned to swim through dunes, beetles that harvest fog droplets on their shells, and jerboas whose enormous ears radiate heat in place of sweat. The contrast with today's desert is stark. Where herds of aurochs once roamed, only the occasional desert fox now scampers between rocks. The fossilized nests of weaver birds, once woven from reeds in vanished wetlands, have given way to the burrows of sandgrouse that nestle in the shade of thorn bushes. Yet traces of the old world linger. In Mauritania's Adrar Plateau, stands of wild olive trees persist in isolated pockets, living relics of a wetter age, their roots tapping into underground reserves of ancient water. Even the desert's so-called fairy circles, bare patches of soil once blamed on termites may actually be echoes of an older ecosystem where plants organized themselves to maximize scarce resources as the land dried. What makes these discoveries so poignant isn't just the loss, but the resilience they reveal. The same pollen samples that record the collapse of forests also show how pioneer species like tamarisk clung on at oases, becoming the last green refuges. Fossilized hoofprints of oryx preserved in dried mudflats follow paths that modern herds still walk, a genetic memory of migration routes etched into the land. And in a twist of irony, some plants once thought extinct have been rediscovered. In Oman's Dhofar Mountains, botanists found a population of frankincense trees genetically identical to those whose resin was traded in antiquity, survivors of a microclimate that somehow defied the encroaching desert. The lesson here isn't just about extinction, it's about transformation. The desert's current inhabitants, from the sidewinding snakes to the drought-deep roots of acacias, are proof that life doesn't merely surrender, it reinvents. But the fossil record also carries a warning. In sediment layers marking the transition from green to barren, scientists note a disturbing pattern. The larger, more specialized species died out first. As our own climate shifts, the echoes of this ancient collapse feel uncomfortably familiar. The desert remembers its past not as a graveyard, but as a testament to the delicate balance that sustains all ecosystems, and the price paid when that balance fails. The echoes of this ancient desert's collapse reverberate far beyond its dunes, whispering urgent lessons for our modern world. Right now, over 2 billion people live in dry lands threatened by desertification, a process eerily similar to what transformed this once verdant region into barren sand. The parallels are impossible to ignore. Satellite images show the Sahel region of Africa retreating southward at nearly 5 kilometers per year, swallowing villages and farmland. In Spain's Almeria province, plastic greenhouses stretch to the horizon, a temporary fix against soil degradation that mirrors the desperate irrigation efforts of ancient farmers before their final collapse. What makes these comparisons so chilling is the pattern they reveal. Just as pollen records show ancient forests giving way to shrubs before disappearing entirely, modern ecosystems display the same warning signs. Mongolia's steppes, where herders have grazed livestock for millennia, now lose over 3,000 square kilometers of productive land annually as overgrazing strips away vegetation. Drought-resistant plants like sagebrush invade where diverse grasses once grew, a botanical shift almost identical to those found in sediment cores from the Sahara's transformation period. Even the triggers align. Ancient climate shifts caused by Earth's orbital cycles now have a human-driven counterpart. Greenhouse gas emissions altering rainfall patterns at speeds that make natural adaptation nearly impossible for many species. Yet within this crisis lies extraordinary opportunity. The same archaeological sites that document collapse also preserve solutions. In Peru's Huacachina Desert, researchers revived pre-Incan waffle gardens, grids of sunken plots that reduce evaporation by 60% compared to modern fields. Jordan's Badia Research Center trains farmers in Nabatean water harvesting techniques, using stone channels to direct scarce rainfall exactly where crops need it. Perhaps most remarkably, China's lowest plateau, once a dust bowl rivaling America's 1930s Dust Bowl, has been partially restored using terraces modeled after 2,000-year-old designs found in Xinjiang's deserts. The lesson isn't just technical, it's philosophical. Ancient societies that thrived longest in marginal environments shared a trait modern planners often overlook: flexibility. The Nabateans of Petra didn't just build water systems, they designed them to be modular, expanding or contracting systems as climate fluctuated. Similarly, modern projects like Morocco's Green Mosques initiative combine solar-powered desalination with drought-resistant crops, creating systems that adapt to worsening conditions rather than fighting them. Perhaps the most profound takeaway lies in redefining what we consider wasteland. The desert's fossilized riverbeds prove that ecosystems can regenerate if given the chance. In Niger, farmers who stopped clearing tree sprouts mimicking the natural, fertile islands found around ancient acacia stumps reversed desertification across 5 million hectares. Israel's Negev desert, once written off as barren, now blooms with crops watered by drip irrigation inspired by Byzantine-era clay pipes. These successes suggest that the line between desert and fertile land isn't fixed, it's a balance we can influence if we learn from those who walked this path before us. The urgency couldn't be clearer. As shrinking aquifers from Arizona to India force painful choices, the desert story offers both a warning and a lifeline. Its ruins remind us that civilizations rise and fall by their relationship with water. Its artifacts prove that adaptation is possible, and its very existence stands as testament to nature's resilience if we're wise enough to listen. Beneath the parched surface of the desert, where dunes stretch endlessly under a relentless sun, lies a hidden world of water, ancient aquifers locked away like buried treasure. These subterranean reservoirs, some holding liquid that fell as rain thousands of years ago, were once the lifelines of vanished civilizations. In Egypt's western desert, fossilized palm roots plunged deep into the rock, tracing paths to long dry oases that drew moisture from these very reserves. The Nabateans of Petra mastered the art of tapping them, carving intricate channels to guide seepage into cisterns that sustained their rose-red city. Even today, Bedouin nomads follow ancestral knowledge to find fissures where water whispers close enough to the surface to dig shallow wells. But accessing these reserves today isn't as simple as lowering a bucket. The Nubian sandstone aquifer system, stretching beneath Libya, Egypt, Chad, and Sudan, holds an estimated 150,000 cubic kilometers of water, enough to fill Lake Superior 20 times over. Yet this isn't a renewable resource, drilled too recklessly, and the water table drops irreversibly, as Libya discovered when its great man-made river project caused ancient wells in neighboring oases to run dry. The ethical dilemma is stark. Should we tap these prehistoric reserves to combat modern droughts, or preserve them as emergency buffers for future generations? Technology offers middle ground. In Saudi Arabia's Al-Kharj region, satellites and ground sensors map aquifer boundaries with precision, ensuring wells target only the most sustainable pockets. Meanwhile, a project in Jordan's Azraq oasis revives Byzantine-era Qanat systems, gently sloping tunnels that collect groundwater without pumps, mimicking nature's pace. Some scientists propose even bolder solutions. Solar-powered desalination plants could recharge depleted aquifers with treated seawater, creating hybrid systems that blend ancient reserves with modern innovation. The debate touches deeper questions about our relationship with the past. These aquifers are time capsules, their chemistry preserving clues about ancient climates. Extracting their water risks destroying irreplaceable data, like burning pages from a history book to stay warm. Yet for communities on the front lines of desertification, the choice isn't academic. In northern Mali, where droughts now last decades instead of years, farmers whisper that the old wells drilled by French colonists in the 1920s suddenly refilled during rare rains, proof that some aquifers still breathe, however faintly. Perhaps the answer lies in balance. The desert's buried water isn't just a resource, it's a legacy. As we weigh tapping it against preserving it, we're forced to confront the same question that doomed or sustained the civilizations before us. how to drink from the well without draining it dry. The desert isn't just shaped by time, it's sculpted by the invisible hands of the wind, a force so relentless it can move mountains of sand grain by grain. Walk through any dune field and you'll notice the surface is never still. Ripples form like waves on an ocean, shifting direction with the whims of the breeze. But this isn't random chaos, it's a precise dance governed by physics. Winds follow seasonal patterns, carrying sand from one side of a dune to the other, inch by inch. In Morocco's Erg Chebi, some dunes migrate up to 20 meters a year, swallowing everything in their path or revealing long-buried secrets as they retreat. The real magic happens in the details. Sand grains don't just blow aimlessly, they hop. Scientists call this process saltation, where particles bounce along the surface like tiny acrobats, dislodging others as they go. Heavier grains roll, while lighter ones soar, creating a sorting system that reshapes the landscape. In Namibia's Sossusvlei, you can see this in action: dunes with sharp crests on the windward side and gentle slopes on the lee, their curves telling stories of prevailing winds that haven't changed for millennia. For archaeologists, these patterns are a treasure map. Ruins buried on a dune's windward side will eventually emerge as the sand migrates, while those on the slip face may vanish for centuries. In Saudi Arabia's Rub al-Khali, researchers use wind models to predict where artifacts might surface, like tracking the path of a slow-motion avalanche. One team discovered a Neolithic campsite not by digging, but by waiting, watching as shifting sands exposed stone tools polished smooth by ancient hands. Wind doesn't just hide and reveal, it also preserves. In Egypt's Fayum Depression, gales scoured away loose sediment to expose a Roman-era vineyard, its trellis posts still standing in eerie rows. Without wind erosion, the site might have remained buried forever. Similarly, in Peru's Sechura Desert, gusts uncovered a pre-Columbian burial shroud, its colors miraculously intact after centuries sealed under drifts. Yet the wind's most profound impact might be its role as a timekeeper. Sand layers accumulate like pages in a book, with thicker deposits marking periods of intense storms. By studying these strata in Oman's Wahiba sands, climatologists reconstructed ancient wind patterns, linking sudden shifts to historical droughts that collapsed civilizations. Even the sand itself holds clues. Quartz grains frosted by millennia of collisions reveal how long a dune has traveled, while mineral signatures trace their origins to distant mountains. The next time you see a desert, remember, those seemingly barren dunes are alive, breathing with every gust. They hide cities, then graciously return them. They carve art into stone, then erase it. And if we learn to read their movements, they might just lead us to the next great discovery waiting beneath the sand. The desert's silence today belies its bustling past, where dunes now stand empty. Caravans once stretched to the horizon, their camels laden with treasures that bridged continents. This was no mere wasteland to cross. It was a thriving corridor of commerce, a green artery pulsing with the exchange of spices from India, incense from Arabia, and gold from sub-Saharan Africa. Along routes like the fabled Incense Road, merchants didn't just trade goods, they traded ideas. A single shard of pottery found in Oman's Rub al-Khali bears Greek motifs, suggesting artisans here knew of Mediterranean styles centuries before Alexander's conquest. Abandoned way stations tell tales of this network's sophistication. In Jordan's Wadi Rum, stone ruins mark a Nabatean rest stop, its walls still scorched by fires that warmed travelers 2,000 years ago. Nearby, troughs carved from bedrock show where camels drank, their grooves worn deep by generations of thirsty beasts, but the real revelations come from merchant archives. A trove of letters discovered in Egypt's eastern desert details contracts between Roman traders and Arabian middlemen, complete with complaints about delayed shipments and haggled prices, proof that even ancient commerce had its frustrations. The routes themselves were marvels of adaptation. Instead of fighting the desert's harshness, traders harnessed it. Summer paths followed seasonal rains, while winter trails clung to mountain springs. In Saudi Arabia's Al-Ula, archaeologists mapped a zigzagging path through canyons, a deliberate detour to avoid sandstorms that still plague the region today. The caravan's cargo lists read like a snapshot of globalization's infancy: frankincense for temple rituals in Babylon, ivory bound for Persian palaces, and even Chinese silk fragments found in Palmyra, suggesting connections stretching farther than historians once imagined. What truly vanished with these routes wasn't just trade, but the cultural alchemy they fostered. A 1st-century fresco in Petra depicts a camel driver wearing Parthian trousers and a Roman cloak, his saddlebags stamped with Indic symbols. Ostracons from Yemen's Kataban kingdom record loans written in Aramaic but signed in Sabaic, a linguistic cocktail born of constant interaction. Even today, the desert's ghost roads whisper of these connections. Satellite imagery reveals faint trails converging like spokes on a wheel near Syria's Tadma, where merchants likely gathered to share news before braving the next stretch of wilderness. The collapse of this network holds eerie parallels to modern supply chain disruptions. When Rome's empire fractured in the 3rd century, demand for luxuries plummeted, leaving wastations to crumble. Climate shifts dried critical wells, forcing detours that made transport untenably expensive. Yet the most poignant legacy lies in the small things: a child's wooden toy camel, unearthed near a route's end in Jordan, its wear marks suggesting it was clutched tightly on long journeys. These routes weren't just economic lifelines, they were threads in a vast, vibrant tapestry of human connection, now frayed but not forgotten. Etched into stone walls and faded pottery shards, the written words of this lost civilization speak across centuries in a language both familiar and foreign. Near an ancient well in Jordan's Wadi Rum, a Nabatean merchant scrawled a price list for frankincense in charcoal, 20 measures for 1 silver coin, with a note complaining about bandits on the northern route. In Libya's Akakis Mountains, a Tuareg ancestor left a different kind of record: a palm print pressed into clay beside a drawing of a giraffe, perhaps marking a hunt or a coming-of-age ritual. These aren't just markings, they're frozen moments, snapshots of daily life where the people themselves become storytellers. The real revelations come when scripts transition from simple tallies to personal narratives. A broken tablet unearthed in Oman's Dhofar region bears a frantic message in South Arabian script: "The well has turned bitter, we depart for the eastern springs at dawn." Archaeologists matched this to sediment cores showing a sudden spike in sulfur deposits, evidence of volcanic activity that contaminated groundwater 3,000 years ago. Similarly, in Egypt's Karga oasis, a Coptic monk's graffiti on a hermitage wall describes a sandstorm that lasted 40 days, corroborated by dust layers in nearby lake beds. The precision is startling. These aren't myths, but eyewitness accounts written in real time. Some inscriptions defy straightforward translation, yet their emotion transcends language. At a remote site in Saudi Arabia's Al-Ula, a thumb-sized amethyst bead carries 3 letters in Thamudic script, HMD. Was it a lover's initials, a merchant's brand? The bead was found clutched in a skeleton's hand, suggesting whatever it signified mattered enough to hold in death. Elsewhere, humor surfaces, like the Roman soldier's doodle in a Petra quarry showing his commander with donkey ears, or a Libico-Berber herdsman's complaint about sheep thieves carved beside a crude drawing of stick figure raiders. The most haunting messages come from those facing oblivion. In Sudan's Bayuda Desert, a Meteoritic inscription on a collapsing temple wall reads, "The land burns, the gods sleep." Tree ring data from the region confirms a megadrought around 2,200 years ago, coinciding with the kingdom's decline. Yet even in despair, there's resilience. A potsherd from Morocco's Sijilmassa ruins bears a child's practice letters, the shaky strokes of someone learning to write as their world changed around them. Technology is unlocking deeper layers. Multispectral imaging recently revealed ghost texts beneath later inscriptions in Yemen's Marib Dam, original messages scrubbed and rewritten like palimpsests of stone. One such overwritten line mentions a queen who made the waters flow again, possibly referencing a legendary ruler known only from oral tales. Similarly, AI pattern analysis identified 17 distinct hands in graffiti at a single Edomite shrine, suggesting it was a pilgrimage site where travelers from across the region left marks. What emerges isn't just a collection of words, but a chorus of voices: the merchant tallying goods, the mother inscribing a prayer, the artist sketching a long extinct animal. Each mark, whether hurried or deliberate, bridges the gap between them and us. When a team in Algeria's Tassili Ennaja found a Neolithic engraving of a dancer mid-twirl, they noticed the grooves were polished smooth, not by wind, but by countless hands touching the figure over generations. Some messages weren't meant to last forever, they were meant to connect. The ruins scattered across this desert whisper conflicting stories. Some speak of slow decline, others of swift, violent ends. Among the most compelling theories is that this green world didn't fade quietly into the sands but was struck down by catastrophe. At a site in modern-day Syria, archaeologists uncovered a layer of crushed pottery and toppled walls, all aligned in a single direction as if pushed by an invisible force. Soil samples from the same stratum held microscopic glass beads, telltale signs of an earthquake so powerful it liquefied the ground, swallowing entire neighborhoods in minutes. Nearby, a skeleton was found curled protectively around a child, their bones frozen in a moment of terror. These aren't just relics, they're snapshots of disaster. But earthquakes weren't the only threat. In the Rub al-Khali, researchers drilling into ancient lake beds hit a layer of dust so thick it clogged their equipment. Analysis revealed it wasn't ordinary sand. It was airborne silt from a drought so severe it lasted generations. Tree rings from preserved acacia stumps tell the same grim story: narrow, desperate bands of growth followed by abrupt stops. The timing coincides with tales from Mesopotamian tablets describing the sky turning to copper when dust storms blotted out the sun for years. Yet some settlements show no signs of struggle, just orderly abandonment. At a fortified town in Jordan's Black Desert, gates were found carefully barred from the inside, homes stripped of valuables but left intact. Was this a planned exodus, or did invaders leave no trace? The debate sharpens when human violence enters the picture. Near an oasis in Libya, a mass grave held 60 bodies, their skulls fractured by identical bronze axes. Carbon dating placed the massacre at the exact period when Egyptian records mention the desert people rising, but weapons alone don't prove conquest. In Saudi Arabia's Tamar region, a shattered dam bears chisel marks suggesting deliberate sabotage, an act of ecological warfare centuries before the term existed. The truth may lie in combinations. At a dig site in Oman, archaeologists found evidence of quake-damaged aquifers followed by invasion-era arrowheads, then finally, a layer of goat bones gnawed down to the marrow. The sequence reads like a tragic play. Nature struck first, humans delivered the final blow, and starvation claimed the rest. New technologies are rewriting old assumptions. Ground-penetrating radar in Tunisia's Chott El Djerid Basin revealed a network of faults beneath a cursed city mentioned in Roman texts. When researchers simulated seismic activity along these lines, the results matched the site's peculiar damage patterns, walls fallen outward, not inward, as if the earth itself spat them up. Meanwhile, isotopic analysis of teeth from desert graves shows sudden shifts from diverse diets to desperate, monotonous meals in the years before death. The most haunting clue: in Morocco's Drought Valley, a family's final moments were preserved in hardened mud. Footprints of adults dragging children toward a dried spring, their path crossed by the paw prints of a starving lion. What emerges isn't a single answer, but a mosaic of calamities. Some communities may have fallen to the sword, others to the sky's refusal to rain. A few might have unraveled from within, their social fabric tearing under stress. The desert guards its secrets jealously, revealing just enough to remind us that collapse is rarely simple. As one researcher put it, holding a cracked irrigation pipe from a 2,000-year-old farm, this didn't break because it was weak. It broke because too many forces pulled at once, and isn't that how all great falls begin? The idea of bringing life back to the desert might sound like a fantasy, but across the world, scientists and communities are proving it's possible, one tree, one drop of water, one patch of soil at a time. Take the Great Green Wall initiative in Africa, where 11 nations are working to create a belt of vegetation stretching across the Sahel. This isn't just about planting trees, it's about resurrecting an entire ecosystem. Farmers in Niger have revived ancient zai pits, small holes dug into hardened earth to concentrate rainwater around saplings, a technique first used by their ancestors over 700 years ago. The results are staggering. Where cracked earth once dominated, 9 million hectares of restored land now support crops, wildlife, and even microclimates that attract seasonal rains. But restoration isn't just about replicating the past, it's about adapting it. In Israel's Negev desert, researchers combined Byzantine-era terraces with modern drip irrigation to create rain farms that harvest every millimeter of moisture. Solar-powered desalination units, inspired by ancient Persian wind catchers that condensed dew, now provide water for olive groves in Jordan's Azraq Basin. Even something as simple as mimicking the desert's natural, fertile islands, patches where shrubs create shade and trap nutrients, has transformed degraded land in Mexico's Chihuahuan desert into pockets of productivity. The real innovation lies in blending old wisdom with new technology. Drones map terrain to pinpoint where ancient rivers once flowed, guiding the planting of deep-rooted acacias that stabilize soil. In Oman, fog nets modeled after extinct desert beetles, shells capture 40 liters of water daily per square meter, enough to sustain seedlings without tapping precious aquifers. Meanwhile, satellite-monitored smart stones embedded in Mauritania's dunes track moisture levels, alerting rangers when young trees need help. Perhaps the most inspiring successes come from local communities. Tuareg nomads in Mali, using songs passed down for generations to locate buried wadis, have partnered with hydrologists to recharge underground reserves with seasonal floodwaters. In Peru's Ica Valley, farmers rebuilt pre-Incan Puquio's spiral stone channels that pull groundwater to the surface without pumps, reviving orchards in areas declared barren by the government. These projects share a common lesson: the desert's memory is long. In China's Quebuqi Desert, once a symbol of irreversible degradation, 30 years of planting drought-resistant licorice, whose roots fix nitrogen like the legumes of ancient oases, has greened over 6,000 square kilometers. The licorice isn't just holding the sand, it's rebuilding soil so other species can return, a process mirroring how nature originally colonized these lands. Of course, challenges remain. Not every technique works everywhere. Failed attempts to introduce non-native trees in Arabia's empty quarter show the risks of ignoring local ecology. And while ancient methods were sustainable at small scales, modern efforts must balance restoration with the needs of growing populations, yet the progress is undeniable. From Morocco's reforested argan woodlands to Australia's carbon farming projects using Aboriginal fire practices, these efforts prove that even the most wounded landscapes can heal. The ultimate goal isn't to recreate a lost world, but to rekindle its resilience. As one Mauritanian elder put it while watching acacia seedlings take root near his ancestral wells, "We are not bringing back the past. We are teaching the land to remember its future." The desert's grip on memory is relentless, shaping not just landscapes but the very identity of those who call its edges home. Walk through a market in Morocco's Sijil Massa, where vendors still arrange spices in geometric patterns mirroring ancient Nabatean trade symbols, and you'll feel the past humming beneath the surface. In Mauritania's Adrar region, women weave textiles dyed with indigo and pomegranate colors chemically identical to those found in 2,000-year-old burial shrouds excavated nearby. These aren't accidents of tradition, they're conscious acts of preservation, threads connecting generations across the chasm of time. Music carries echoes even louder than artifacts. The Tuaregs' 10 drums mimic the rhythm of camel hooves on caravan routes, their lyrics often referencing landmarks now buried under dunes. One haunting ballad from Niger's Aya Mountains describes a river of stars that guided ancestors to water, a celestial map later proven to align with dried riverbeds visible only from space. Similarly, Bedouin poets in Jordan's Wadi Rum still recite verses mentioning the green valleys of the north, though no living person has seen them lush. When linguists analyzed these oral histories, they discovered plant names for species extinct in the region for millennia, preserved like linguistic fossils in song. Rituals hold the deepest resonance. Every spring, Berber communities in Algeria's Mzab Valley reenact the Dance of the Palms, where participants wave fronds in precise formations that trace the path of an underground aquifer. Archaeologists comparing satellite images realized the movements mirror the aquifer's actual course, mapped by ancient engineers with astonishing accuracy. Further east, in Oman's Dhofar Mountains, families gather during Kharif rains to press silver coins into the roots of frankincense trees, a tradition carbon-dated offerings prove began when the region was still a rainforest. Even children's games whisper of lost knowledge. In Egypt's Siwa oasis, kids play a board game called Senet on grids scratched into the sand using stones as pieces. Nearby, excavations uncovered an identical game carved into a temple floor from the Roman era, its rules preserved in hieratic script, the most poignant link. Modern players still call the central square the well, though most don't realize this references a gameplay strategy from when water access dictated survival. Artisans unconsciously channel ancestral skills. Potters in Tunisia's Nefsayayua region still coil clay vessels without wheels, a technique that leaves microscopic spirals matching those on shards from Neolithic sites. When asked why they resist modern methods, one craftsman shrugged. The clay remembers. His words proved prophetic. Molecular analysis showed local artisans sourced their materials from the same Pleistocene era deposits their predecessors used. Similarly, Saudi Arabia's Al-Khat al-Asiri muralists use crushed minerals from vanished lakes, their vibrant murals chemically identical to cave paintings found beneath the dunes. The desert's influence extends to modern governance. In Mauritania's Tagant Plateau, water disputes are settled by councils tracing their authority to manuscripts kept in leather pouches, documents that cite laws first inscribed on 5th century stelae. Dubai's skyscrapers may gleam with glass, but their wind-deflecting designs borrow directly from the stepped profiles of Bronze Age towers in Yemen's Hadramaut. Even urban planning reflects this legacy. The circular layout of Morocco's Zagora Medina precisely mirrors a ruined caravan city uncovered by sandstorms in 2019. What emerges is a living palimpsest where every gesture, melody, or brushstroke holds layers of meaning. The desert didn't just shape these cultures, it became their archive, their muse, their silent collaborator. As a young Tuareg poet in Mali told me, pressing his palm against a rock carving of a giraffe, "This isn't history, it's our older sibling sleeping lightly." His words capture the intimacy of this relationship, not nostalgia for a vanished world, but an ongoing conversation with a landscape that still has stories left to tell. Archaeology in the desert has entered a new era, where the tools of discovery look more like something from a sci-fi film than the traditional trowel and brush. Drones equipped with thermal cameras now soar over vast dune fields, their sensors detecting subtle temperature variations that reveal buried stone structures invisible to the naked eye. In Jordan's Wadi Fainan, this technology recently pinpointed the outline of a sprawling Copper Age settlement, its walls radiating heat differently than the surrounding sand long after sunset. Meanwhile, multispectral scanners mounted on drones can identify minute chemical changes in the soil traces of ancient hearths or decomposed organic matter, mapping entire villages without a single shovel breaking ground. But the real revolution lies beneath the surface. Ground-penetrating radar has evolved from clunky, cart-mounted systems to handheld devices that can image 10 meters down with startling clarity. Archaeologists in Egypt's western desert used a next-generation GPR unit to discover a network of Ptolemaic-era tunnels beneath what appeared to be featureless sand. The device's real-time 3D rendering showed chambers branching like tree roots, some still containing amphorae sealed for over 2,000 years. Even more impressive are muon detectors, cosmic ray scanners that create X-ray-like images of dense structures. In Algeria's Tassili Ennaja, these devices revealed a hidden canyon system where prehistoric rock art panels had been sheltered from erosion, their pigments preserved in perfect microclimates. Digital reconstruction is rewriting the rules of interpretation. At Petra's lesser-known sister city of Hegra in Saudi Arabia, laser-scanned inscriptions are fed through AI translation algorithms that cross-reference known Nabatean texts with linguistic patterns, filling gaps where weathering has erased words. The system recently reconstructed a complete trade contract from fragments, including clauses about water rights that mirrored modern desert agriculture disputes. Similarly, photogrammetry, stitching thousands of overlapping photos into precise 3D models, allows researchers to excavate sites virtually. A team studying Libya's Garamonte civilization used this method to digitally peel back layers of sand from fortress ruins, revealing construction phases that would have taken decades to uncover physically. Perhaps the most unexpected innovation comes from the microbial world. DNA sequencing of desert soil is uncovering genetic ghosts, traces of plants, animals, and even human microbiomes preserved in mineralized form. In Oman's Dhofar region, scientists extracted ancient wheat DNA from what appeared to be sterile sediment, proving agriculture existed 2,000 years earlier than previously believed. Similarly, portable mass spectrometers can now analyze the molecular residue on pottery shards in the field, identifying long-evaporated contents. A broken jar from a Mauritanian dig site, initially dismissed as empty, was found to have once held fermented dairy, evidence of early cheese production in the Sahara. These tools aren't just speeding up discoveries, they're democratizing access. Bedouin tribesmen in Sudan's Bayuda Desert now use smartphone apps designed by archaeologists to log artifact sightings. Their GPS-tagged reports building a crowdsourced map of previously unknown sites. In Morocco, schoolchildren participate in virtual digs, analyzing drone footage to spot anomalies that professionals might miss. The data deluge does present challenges. A single LiDAR scan of Petra's hinterlands contains more information than all the site's paper records combined, but machine learning is rising to the task. Pattern recognition algorithms sift through terabytes of imagery, flagging potential finds for human review. One such program identified a lost Nabatean dam in Jordan by detecting the faintest curve in vegetation growth, a signature invisible to even trained eyes. What makes these advances truly transformative is how they preserve while uncovering. Traditional excavation inevitably destroys context as layers are removed, but a drone's eye view or a subsurface scan captures everything in situ. When a sandstorm recently erased a newly discovered Neolithic campsite in Arabia, researchers could still study it down to the millimeter thanks to preemptive 3D modeling. Similarly, virtual reality reconstructions allow scholars worldwide to examine fragile sites without risking damage, a boon for places like Libya's conflict zones where physical access is dangerous. The desert's secrets, once revealed, no longer need to be lost again. The implications stretch beyond archaeology. These same technologies monitor modern desertification, track endangered species, and even locate groundwater reserves. As climate change accelerates, the lessons learned in ancient sands are becoming survival tools for the present. When a team in Chad used satellite radar to map prehistoric lakebeds, they inadvertently found underground aquifers that now supply drought-stricken villages. The past isn't just speaking to us, it's offering solutions, if we're clever enough to listen through the static of centuries. The same desert sands that erased ancient civilizations now hold the key to protecting our future. Scientists are turning to this barren landscape as a living laboratory, using its layered history to refine climate models with startling precision. By analyzing sediment cores from dried lakebeds, they've reconstructed rainfall patterns stretching back 12,000 years, revealing cycles of drought so severe they reshaped human history. One particularly telling sample from Tunisia's Chott El Djerid Basin contains alternating layers of pollen-rich mud and wind-blown dust, each band marking the rise and fall of regional monsoons. When fed into supercomputers, this data helps simulate how small atmospheric shifts can trigger cascading effects, like the abrupt desertification that collapsed the Garamontes Empire in Libya around 400 CE. But the real breakthrough lies in connecting these ancient patterns to modern observations. Satellite measurements of dune movements in Namibia's Namib Desert, some advancing 30 meters a year, align perfectly with wind direction changes predicted by models based on fossilized dune formations from the last ice age. Similarly, the sudden greening of Arabia's empty quarter during a wet period 6,000 years ago, evidenced by Neolithic rock art depicting lakes and giraffes, mirrors climate simulations of how shifting Indian Ocean currents could again transform the region. These aren't hypothetical scenarios, they're tested against hard evidence from the geological record. The models reveal unexpected vulnerabilities. Data from Oman's Wahiba sands shows that once a certain threshold of vegetation loss occurs, about 40% ground cover, dunes begin migrating exponentially faster, creating self-reinforcing feedback loops. This explains why some past climate shifts caused abrupt ecological collapses rather than gradual changes. Modern parallels are emerging. Recent studies of the Sahel found identical tipping points where overgrazing and reduced rainfall triggered rapid desert expansion, exactly as the ancient models predicted. Perhaps most crucially, this research is rewriting assumptions about water scarcity. By mapping the isotopic signatures of millennia-old groundwater in Nubian sandstone aquifers, hydrologists can trace how ancient recharge rates responded to climatic shifts. The findings challenge conventional wisdom. Some aquifers refilled dramatically during brief but intense rainy periods, suggesting modern water management strategies should prioritize capturing episodic deluges rather than relying on steady rainfall. In Jordan's Azraq Basin, this insight led engineers to redesign dams based on Nabatean water harvesting principles, increasing reservoir capacity by 200% during rare flood events. The desert's greatest lesson might be about interconnectedness. Climate models incorporating dust records from Arabian seabeds show how desertification alters global systems. Saharan sand particles seeding Amazonian rains, or Australian droughts linked to vegetation loss in Central Asia. When researchers input ancient Mesopotamian irrigation data into these models, they uncovered a startling finding. Early agriculture's localized water use may have shifted regional cloud patterns, inadvertently accelerating the very droughts that doomed those civilizations. These models aren't crystal balls, but they're the next best thing, time machines grounded in empirical evidence. As new technologies like quantum computing and AI pattern recognition analyze previously unprocessable datasets from fossilized termite mounds or mineralized root networks, their predictions grow ever sharper. The ultimate goal isn't just forecasting where deserts will expand, but identifying intervention points where small actions, restoring native vegetation along wind corridors, modifying cloud seeding techniques based on paleoclimate rain triggers, could prevent catastrophic shifts. What makes this work so urgent is its human dimension. Climate models based on the desert's past accurately predicted the timing of recent pastoralist conflicts in Sudan's Darfur region, where dwindling grasslands exacerbated tensions. Similarly, projections of Mediterranean drying patterns informed Tunisia's successful switch to drought-resistant olive cultivars, preventing agricultural collapse. The desert whispers a warning written in layers of dust and bone, but also offers solutions etched into the stone of abandoned terraces and the DNA of long-extinct drought survivors. As one climatologist studying Libyan fossil springs put it, holding a vial of water last touched by sunlight 5 millennia ago, the past isn't just prologue, it's an operations manual for the coming storm. Every artifact pulled from the desert's grasp carries more than just historical weight. It sparks a modern dilemma tangled in politics, identity, and justice. Take the case of the Ain Ghazal statues discovered in Jordan's parched outskirts. These 9,000-year-old plaster figures, among the oldest human representations ever found, now sit in a museum thousands of miles from their birthplace, igniting tensions over who truly has the right to steward such treasures. Local communities argue these artifacts are ancestral heirlooms, their presence on native soil vital for cultural continuity. Meanwhile, institutions abroad counter that their resources and technology offer better preservation, a debate echoing across excavation sites worldwide. The lines blur further when governments intervene. In Egypt's western desert, a cache of Roman-era manuscripts was unearthed by a French team, only to be seized by authorities mid-transport to Paris. Cairo insisted the scrolls belonged to the nation's collective heritage, while researchers protested the abrupt halt to their decade-long project. Similar clashes unfold over satellite imagery, when a British academic used declassified spy photos to locate a lost city in Oman. The Omani government restricted access, fearing foreign exploitation of sensitive cultural data. These conflicts reveal a central question: does the past belong to those who unearth it, those who preserve it best, or those whose ancestors created it? Indigenous perspectives add deeper nuance. Tuareg elders in Mali's Adrar des Ifoghas mountains speak of living artifacts, objects like ceremonial daggers or fertility statues that remain ritually active within their communities. To them, removing these items for museum display isn't preservation, it's a severing of spiritual bonds. Archaeologists working in the region now collaborate with tribal councils, leaving certain finds in situ or replicating them digitally to respect cultural protocols. Yet even this approach faces criticism. Some scholars argue that prioritizing local beliefs risks censoring humanity's shared history, like when Saudi officials blocked publication of pre-Islamic rock art findings deemed religiously sensitive. The legal frameworks themselves are patchworks of contradiction. UNESCO conventions declare cultural property part of mankind's common heritage, while national laws like Mexico's grant automatic ownership of all subsurface artifacts to the state. Private collectors further muddy the waters. A thriving black market trades desert relics with provenance papers as thin as the parchments they authenticate. One notorious incident saw a Neolithic funerary mask from Libya's Drought resurface in a Brussels auction house, its path from sand to showroom traced through 3 countries with lax export laws. Emerging models seek balance through shared stewardship. In Morocco's Drought Valley, a joint Berber university team curates a mobile museum where artifacts rotate between villages and research centers, blending academic study with community access. Digital repatriation projects, like the 3D scans allowing Sudanese refugees to hold Nubian temple fragments via VR headsets, offer compromise where physical return is impossible. Even intellectual property gets reconsidered. A groundbreaking agreement between Namibia's San people and Oxford University ensures genetic data from ancient skeletons benefits descendant communities through medical research partnerships. Perhaps the most poignant lesson comes from failures. When a well-meaning team returned a trove of Nabatean jewelry to a Jordanian village, locals sold it within weeks to fund a school. The artifacts vanished into private collections, leaving archaeologists and villagers alike remorseful. This incident birthed innovative solutions like heritage trusts, where tourism revenue from sites funds local infrastructure, aligning preservation with tangible community benefits. The desert's silent ruins remind us that ownership isn't just about possession, it's about responsibility, connection, and the fragile threads tying past to present. Imagine walking through the ruins of an ancient caravan stop at sunset. The same golden light that once warmed traders from distant lands now illuminating your path. This is the magic of ecotourism in the desert, where travel doesn't just showcase history, but actively preserves it. In Jordan's Wadi Rum, Bedouin guides lead small groups through sandstone canyons to Neolithic petroglyphs, their hands tracing the same rock carvings their ancestors might have touched. The tours are intimate, the footprints few, and a portion of every fee funds site restoration. It's a far cry from the crowded buses and souvenir stalls that plague more famous ruins. Here, the desert silence remains unbroken, its stories told in hushed tones over cups of sage tea. Museums in these regions are redefining what it means to engage with the past. The Al-Ula Museum in Saudi Arabia doesn't just display artifacts, it immerses visitors in sensory experiences. Step into a recreated Nabatean market where the scent of frankincense hangs thick and holographic merchants barter in reconstructed dialects. Interactive screens let you dig through stratified sand layers, uncovering digital replicas of pottery shards and bone tools while learning how real excavations protect fragile originals. Down the road, the Hegra Visitor Center trains local youths as guides, ensuring the expertise stays within the community. Their pride is palpable as they point out inscriptions naming their distant relatives, forging a living link across millennia. For those craving hands-on learning, archaeological volunteer programs offer unparalleled access. In Morocco's Sijil Massa, travelers join digs alongside professionals, sifting through sediment for evidence of the medieval gold trade. The work is meticulous. Brushing dust from a bead might take hours, but the thrill of discovery is electric. One recent participant unearthed a Fatimid-era coin, its calligraphy still crisp, and watched as specialists recorded its GPS coordinates for global research databases. These programs adhere to strict ethical codes. Nothing is pocketed, every fragment catalogued, and the sites reburied afterward to shield them from erosion and looters. The ripple effects of responsible tourism extend beyond preservation. In Oman's Sharqiya sands, former camel herders now run eco-lodges powered by solar panels and cooled by traditional wind towers. Guests sleep under goat hair tents fitted with modern comforts, their stays funding water conservation projects that revive ancient Aflaj irrigation systems. Over in Tunisia's Kaysar Ghislaine, thermal springs once frequented by Roman soldiers now feed pools for weary hikers, with revenue protecting nearby Garamantes-era fortresses from sand encroachment. Even dining becomes conservation. Chefs source ingredients from farms using Nabatean terracing techniques, creating meals that nourish both body and heritage. Critics argue that any human presence risks damage, but technology offers compromises. Virtual reality stations at visitor centers let armchair explorers tour off-limit sites like Libya's vulnerable Jerma ruins without physical intrusion. Drones capture high-resolution scans of petroglyphs in Algeria's Tassili Ennaja, creating digital archives before wind erosion claims the originals. For locals, these innovations mean sharing their legacy without sacrificing its integrity. As one Mauritanian elder explained while demonstrating how his ancestors navigated by stars, "We want the world to know our history, but not at the cost of its bones turning to dust under careless feet." The true measure of success lies in sustainability. In Israel's Negev Desert, the Mamshit National Park limits daily visitors to 200, ensuring that Byzantine-era mosaics aren't trampled into oblivion. Tickets fund robotic cleaners that gently remove dust from delicate frescoes, mimicking the desert's own preservative powers. Meanwhile, in Egypt's White Desert, guides teach tourists to recognize and avoid fragile chalk formations shaped over eons, turning each excursion into a masterclass in stewardship. This isn't just tourism, it's time travel with a purpose. Whether you're sipping tea with a Tuareg storyteller under the Milky Way or helping document a newly discovered trade route in Jordan, you become part of the desert's ongoing story. The sands may erase kingdoms, but through thoughtful exploration, we ensure their whispers endure. The desert guards its most tantalizing secrets with a stubbornness that both frustrates and fascinates researchers. Even with satellites mapping every dune and radar peering through layers of sand, vast stretches remain unexplored, not for lack of trying, but because the landscape itself resists. Take the Rub al Khali, the empty quarter spanning Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Yemen. This sea of dunes the size of France has swallowed entire expeditions whole, leaving behind only cryptic diary entries and rusted truck parts. Yet ground-penetrating surveys reveal anomalies too regular to be natural rectangular shapes buried under 60 meters of sand, their outlines matching descriptions of Yubar, the fabled Atlantis of the sands. Legends say its towers brimmed with frankincense wealth before divine wrath erased it from the map. Could these geometric shadows be its remains, or are we seeing the birth of a new myth? Then there's the mystery of the Libyan desert glass. Scattered across Egypt's Great Sand Sea are chunks of golden yellow silica so pure they've been used in jewelry since Tutankhamun's era. The glass isn't volcanic, nor is it from meteorites. Its origin defies explanation. Some theorize a comet exploded overhead 28 million years ago, its heat fusing the sand instantly. Others point to strange, funnel-shaped depressions nearby as evidence of an ancient, hyper-concentrated energy event. Whatever the cause, the glass's presence hints at forces beyond our current understanding, hiding in plain sight among the dunes. Archaeologists are chasing even older enigmas. In Algeria's Tassili en-Naja, cave paintings depict giraffes and crocodiles from a greener past, but one mural stands apart. A towering figure with rounded helmet and featureless face, its arms outstretched toward smaller humanoid shapes. Local Tuareg call it Jabaran, the giant. Unlike the region's other art, this figure's proportions and style have no parallel in African prehistory. Could it record an encounter with outsiders from unimaginable distances, or something else entirely? Nearby, a network of tunnels snakes beneath the plateau, their walls too smooth for natural erosion, their purpose lost to time. The desert's water ghosts taunt us too. Satellite imagery has identified over 200 paleolakes beneath the Sahara, but one in particular, the Tamanrasset megalake, defies logic. Stretching 1,200 kilometers from Mali to Mauritania, this vanished water body would have dwarfed Lake Superior, yet sediment cores show it filled and emptied multiple times, far faster than climate models can explain. Some researchers speculate underground aquifers of unimaginable size lurked beneath, collapsing like subterranean balloons when overtapped by ancient civilizations. If true, what engineering marvels might lie in those drowned caverns? Perhaps the greatest unsolved riddle is demographic. How did cultures like the Garamantes flourish in Libya's Fezzan region, building stone cities and irrigating crops in what's now absolute desolation? Their Qanat systems suggest deep hydrological knowledge, but recent LiDAR scans reveal something astonishing. Their fields followed spiral patterns identical to mathematical models for optimal water distribution centuries before such concepts existed in Europe. Was this genius intuition, or were they heirs to even older, lost sciences? New technologies promise breakthroughs. Muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays to image dense structures, could soon map entire buried cities without breaking ground. AI analyzing sand composition might pinpoint areas where human activity altered mineral profiles millennia ago. And then there's the dream of resurrection ecology, sequencing DNA from desert pollen fossils to reconstruct entire extinct ecosystems digitally. The desert's next act may rewrite history itself. A recent survey in Iraq's western deserts located 18 previously unknown Mesopotamian settlements using drone-mounted magnetometers. Their layouts suggest a centralized kingdom predating Sumer by centuries, a civilization with no name yet. As one archaeologist mused while holding a pottery shard from the site, "We've been telling the story of human progress all wrong." The desert isn't our past's graveyard. It's the attic where our ancestors stored their secrets, waiting for us to grow wise enough to find them. The story of this desert's transformation from lush oasis to barren sands isn't an isolated tragedy. It's part of a global narrative written in dust and bone. Half a world away, the Atacama Desert in Chile was once a network of wetlands, its valleys teeming with life. Fossilized whale skeletons now lie stranded miles inland, their bones embedded in rock that once formed the ocean floor. Like our desert, the Atacama's death came gradually shifting ocean currents diverted moisture, while tectonic uplifts severed its connection to the sea. Yet there's a crucial difference. The Atacama's hyper-aridity preserved organic material with eerie perfection. Ancient human settlements there still contain remnants of fishing nets woven from grasses that haven't grown there for 6,000 years, offering snapshots of loss frozen in time. Cross to Australia's Simpson Desert, where Aboriginal oral histories describe lakes so vast they reflected the stars like mirrors. Geological surveys confirm these accounts. Beneath the rust-red dunes lie ancient shorelines marking a vanished mega-lake. Unlike our desert's slow withering, the Simpsons' collapse appears abrupt. Sediment cores show a single catastrophic drought around 4,000 years ago, possibly triggered by an El Niño event so severe it rewrote the continent's hydrology. The aftermath lingers in indigenous songlines, navigational chants that still describe water sources long dried up, passed down through generations like maps to a forgotten world. Then there's the American Southwest, where the ancestral Pueblones thrived in what's now the Mojave. Their sophisticated irrigation canals fed crops in valleys that today crack under unrelenting sun. Tree ring data reveals the deadly pattern. 2 decades of ample rains lured them into expansion, followed by a 50-year drought that emptied entire cities. The parallels to our desert are chilling. Both civilizations mastered water management, only to be undone by climate shifts beyond their foresight. But the Southwest holds a warning our desert doesn't. Human actions amplified the crisis. Overcultivation and deforestation likely exacerbated the drought's impact, a cautionary tale for modern agriculture in marginal lands. The most striking contrast lies in Central Asia's Taklamakan Desert, nicknamed the place of no return. Here, the transformation wasn't just climatic, it was cultural. Silk Road cities like Lulan flourished along rivers fed by glacial melt from the Tian Shan Mountains. When temperatures dropped during the Little Ice Age, glaciers advanced, paradoxically increasing water flow. The real collapse came later, as political turmoil disrupted maintenance of the Kerez tunnels underground, aqueducts that mimicked Persia's qanats. Without constant care, sand swallowed the channels, then the cities they sustained. It's a reminder that environmental change rarely works alone. It dances with human decisions in ways that defy simple explanations. What unites these stories isn't just tragedy, but adaptation. In each case, survivors carried forward fragments of knowledge. The Atacama's fishermen became masters of fog harvesting. Australia's indigenous groups developed intricate fire ecology to manage scant resources. Our desert's legacy lies similarly in the drought-resistant crops bred by its ancient farmers, strains now being rediscovered as modern climate stresses intensify. The global perspective reveals a profound truth. Deserts aren't wastelands but archives of resilience. Their sands hold not just warnings but blueprints, if we're humble enough to read them. The next frontier of desert exploration isn't just about digging deeper, it's about seeing smarter. Imagine drones no larger than dragonflies, equipped with microscopic soil samplers, flitting across dune fields to analyze grain composition in real time. These aren't sci-fi fantasies. Prototypes already exist, tested in Morocco's Erg Chebi to map mineral variations invisible to the human eye. Meanwhile, quantum gravity sensors, devices so sensitive they detect underground cavities by measuring subtle shifts in Earth's gravitational field, are set to debut in Algeria's Tassili and Naja. Early trials located a previously unknown network of caves beneath the plateau, their walls lined with untouched Neolithic art shielded from millennia of erosion. But the true game changer lies in artificial intelligence's evolving role. Machine learning algorithms trained on global desert patterns now predict where artifacts might surface with eerie accuracy. One system recently cross-referenced satellite images of Saudi Arabia's Nefer Desert with historical trade routes, pinpointing 3 potential caravan stops later confirmed by ground teams. Even more groundbreaking are predictive archaeology models being developed at Oxford. By simulating thousands of climate and human migration scenarios, these programs forecast where undiscovered settlements likely thrived based on water access and wind patterns. Early results suggest we've only found 30% of the Sahara's major archaeological sites. Upcoming expeditions sound like something from a spy thriller. A joint German-Egyptian team plans to deploy subterranean sand snakes in the Western Desert robotic probes that burrow through loose sediment, relaying 3D scans of buried structures without disturbing a single grain. Over in Oman, researchers will test a revolutionary acoustic tomography technique using carefully tuned sound waves to vibrate sand particles just enough to reveal hidden chambers. The method proved startlingly effective in lab tests, distinguishing between natural rock formations and man-made walls with 94% accuracy. Theoretical advancements promise to rewrite textbooks. A controversial hypothesis gaining traction suggests some deserts may hold shadow ecosystems, microbial communities thriving in microscopic water films around mineral grains. If confirmed by NASA, upcoming Mars analog missions in Chile's Atacama, it could redefine how we search for life in extreme environments. Similarly, new ice core analyses from Antarctica hint that the Sahara's greening periods didn't just follow climate cycles, but may have been triggered by volcanic eruptions altering atmospheric circulation. Collaborations are breaking down traditional barriers. Later this year, Tuareg nomads will train alongside geophysicists in Mali, combining ancestral knowledge of dune movements with LiDAR technology to locate lost cities. In Jordan, a citizen science project enlists tourists to photograph desert rocks, their crowdsourced images processed by AI to identify faint inscriptions overlooked by professionals. Even space agencies are joining the effort. TSA's upcoming biomass satellite will use specialized radar to detect subsurface organic matter, potentially revealing buried vegetation from ancient wet periods. The most exciting prospect: we may finally solve desert archaeology's greatest frustration, the inability to date sand itself. A team at MIT is pioneering luminescence mapping, a technique that measures when individual quartz grains last saw sunlight. Successful trials in Israel's Negev allowed researchers to create chronological layers across entire landscapes, effectively time-stamping erosion patterns. Applied to places like the Rub al Khali, it could reconstruct exactly when and how fast dunes engulfed civilizations. What makes this era unique isn't just the technology, but the philosophy driving it. Gone are the days of solitary archaeologists hacking through dirt with trowels. The future belongs to interdisciplinary teams, geneticists sequencing pollen DNA from ancient flask residues, climatologists modeling Bronze Age dust storms, even linguists programming AIs to decipher fragmented scripts. The desert's greatest gift may be teaching us humility. For all our advancements, each discovery reveals how much we've yet to learn. As one researcher said while watching a sandstorm erase their excavation site, only to expose a previously hidden tomb entrance, the desert isn't hiding its secrets, it's waiting for us to ask better questions. You don't need a time machine or a plane ticket to walk the streets of a vanished desert city. Just an internet connection and a sense of curiosity. Digital platforms have flung open the doors to this forgotten world, letting anyone with a smartphone or computer explore its secrets in stunning detail. Take Google Earth's Ancient Earth overlay, where toggling a slider morphs modern satellite views into reconstructions of the Sahara's green heyday. Suddenly, the empty expanse of Libya's Merzouq Basin blooms with digital lakes, their shorelines dotted with the ghostly outlines of settlements that haven't existed for 5,000 years. It's not just eye candy. These models are built on real geological data, from fossilized pollen counts to sediment core samples, offering a scientifically grounded window into the past. For those craving hands-on exploration, the University of Chicago's Digital Giza project takes things further. Their interactive map of Egypt's western desert lets you zoom into individual excavation sites, clicking on 3D scanned artifacts like a 4th Dynasty pottery shard or a Roman-era sandal. Each object spins beneath your cursor, revealing tool marks and wear patterns invisible in museum displays. Over in Saudi Arabia, the Royal Commission for Al Ula's online portal stitches together drone footage, LiDAR scans, and century-old explorer sketches to recreate the lost city of Hegra as it stood during Nabatean rule. The detail is staggering. Hover over a carved tomb facade, and a pop-up deciphers its inscriptions. Click a sand-dusted courtyard, and audio clips of reconstructed Nabatean trade negotiations play softly in the background. Academic collaborations have turned these tools into research powerhouses. The Saharan Archaeological Atlas, hosted by King's College London, layers archaeological finds with climate models, letting users visualize how shifting rainfall patterns shaped human migration. Toggle between 4000 BCE and 1000 BCE and watch green corridors dissolve into brown, pushing settlement markers toward the Nile like beads sliding off a tilting tray. Meanwhile, the Max Planck Institute's Fossilized Landscapes project gamifies discovery. Volunteers sift through satellite images of Mauritania's Adrar Plateau, flagging potential ruins for professionals to investigate. One amateur recently spotted a circular stone arrangement, later confirmed as a Neolithic livestock enclosure, proving crowd-sourced science can rewrite history books. The most poignant experiences come from platforms blending past and present. In Voices of the Desert, a joint initiative by UNESCO and Tuareg communities, clicking on a dried riverbed in Mali's Timbuktu region overlays oral histories from local elders. Their voices, sometimes trembling with age, describe fishing in waters that vanished before their grandparents' time, while augmented reality recreations of lost flora flicker atop the barren landscape. Similarly, Arizona State University's Desert Stories project uses AI to match modern drone footage with historical traveler accounts. Pull up a view of Jordan's Wadi Araba, and the screen splits to show T. E. Lawrence's 1914 description of the same vista, his words scrolling beside the unchanged cliffs he once called the bones of the earth. These tools aren't just about nostalgia, they're shaping real-world conservation. The Dynamic Deserts platform, developed by the Sahara Conservation Fund, lets users simulate how proposed solar farms or wells might impact fragile ecosystems. Drag a virtual water pump onto a map of Chad's Wadi Rimeh Reserve, and the model forecasts dune movements over decades, revealing whether the project might accidentally bury Neolithic rock art. For educators, the British Museum's Virtual Qanat turns ancient water management into a teachable moment. Students manipulate digital sluice gates in a reconstructed Persian aqueduct, watching how adjusting flow rates could make or break an oasis city's survival. The true magic lies in accessibility. A Bedouin teenager in Morocco can scrutinize 3D models of ancestral jewelry held in Parisian museums, rotating each piece to study engraving techniques. A retired teacher in Tokyo can virtually dust off sand-covered inscriptions in Oman using a tool that mimics archaeological brushes. Every click erases barriers of distance, wealth, and expertise, democratizing a past once reserved for specialists. As one archaeologist remarked while watching a class of middle schoolers digitally reconstruct a collapsed caravan stop, the desert's secrets aren't locked in vaults anymore. They're waiting in the cloud where anyone with curiosity can uncover them. The desert that once breathed life stands as a testament to nature's power and humanity's resilience, not as a graveyard of lost civilizations, but as a living classroom where every grain of sand holds a lesson. Look at the ruins of Petra, its rose-red facade still whispering of Nabatean ingenuity, or the skeletal outlines of Timbuktu's sister cities emerging from the Sahara's embrace. These aren't just relics, they're mirrors reflecting our own challenges back at us. When ancient engineers carved water channels into Jordan's cliffs to defy drought, they left behind more than stone. They left a blueprint for survival in an increasingly arid world. Consider the desert's paradox. It destroys and preserves with equal fervor. The same winds that buried Yuba under 60 meters of sand also mummified the Library of the Sands in Mauritania, where 2,000-year-old manuscripts survived in leather pouches, their ink still legible. This duality speaks to something profound about human existence. Our greatest achievements, cities, trade networks, art are fleeting against geological time, yet fragments persist, waiting to inspire new generations. A child's leather sandal found in Oman's dunes isn't just an artifact. It's a bridge between that long-ago morning when someone tied it on and our modern moment of discovery. The real magic lies in how these revelations rewrite not just history, but our understanding of possibility. Satellite images revealing lost riverbeds beneath the Rub al Khali force us to reconsider what we label wasteland. Bedouin folktales about lakes teeming with fish, once dismissed as myth, now gain credence from fossilized fish scales found in radar-scanned lake beds. Even the desert's silence is deceptive. Listen closely, and you'll hear the echoes of caravans in Tuareg music, see the geometry of vanished gardens in Islamic tilework, taste ancestral knowledge in drought-resistant crops bred millennia ago. This landscape's greatest gift might be humility. For all our technology, we're still piecing together how the Garamontes turned Libya's desolate Fezzan into a breadbasket, or why the architects of Yemen's Marib Dam encoded hydrological equations into temple artwork. Each discovery unravels another thread of the assumption that modernity equals superiority. Perhaps the most startling lesson comes from comparing ancient collapse with modern crises. The same patterns of overreach and adaptation play out today, from Arizona's dwindling aquifers to the Sahel's advancing sands. Yet the desert offers more than warnings. It extends lifelines. Traditional fog harvesting techniques from Morocco's anti-Atlas Mountains now inspire high-tech water projects in Chile's Atacama. The Nabateans' mastery of microclimate gardening informs vertical farms in Dubai. Even the humble Zai pit, used by West African farmers for centuries, is revolutionizing arid agriculture from Kenya to New Mexico. The past isn't just prologue, it's a partner in problem solving. So what remains hidden? Plenty. The whereabouts of Alexander the Great's lost oasis army, last seen in Arabia's empty quarter. The full extent of the Tamanrasset megalake's underground tributaries, the meaning behind the spiral petroglyphs in Algeria's Tassili, aligned with stars no longer visible due to Earth's wobble. The desert guards these secrets not out of spite, but because some truths reveal themselves only when we're ready to receive them. As the sands continue shifting both literally and metaphorically, they invite us to keep exploring, questioning, and marveling. Whether you're an armchair archaeologist scrutinizing satellite maps or a traveler feeling the ghost of a breeze off some long-vanished lake, This landscape reminds us that endings are often beginnings in disguise. The next time you see a desert, don't just see emptiness. See a palimpsest, a story written and rewritten by time, waiting for your eyes to trace its newest chapter. Now it's your turn. What forgotten stories do you think still lie beneath the dunes? Share your theories in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we keep unearthing history's hidden layers. The desert's not done teaching.